Hi everyone, my name is Joanna Smith Ramos and I am a licensed marriage, family, and therapist, and I am sitting here in my practice right now and I just wanted to make a short video about shame. Shame is such a heavy and complicated emotion that it's hard to even know where to start with when addressing it. It's really an emotion that's quite prevalent in the work that I do with other people. So for today's purposes, I was just really looking at trying to make kind of a simplistic video about it. I'm happy to make more in the future. Like I said, it's pretty complicated, so I can make, I don't even know how many about it. But I just wanted to give some really, I guess, starting suggestions on how to address the role of shame in your life. It's by no means going to be the way to clear it out. It takes quite a bit of work and effort to do that, and sometimes we kind of have to address past stuff to be able to get into a place where we're comfortable with it. One of my backgrounds is trauma, so I deal with this quite a bit, but aside from that, I see it pretty much almost at some point with everyone that I work with. It's a kind of a beast of an emotion that pops up. And so in regards to shame, the one thing I've really learned about it is how deep-seated it is. It really starts from when we're younger. I work with kids, some as young, sometimes as even 4. Some who have trauma, some who don't, many who come from very loving families, but even those kids with supportive families often struggle with shame. And the reason being is that since we're little, we have a tendency to internalize a lot. And when we make a mistake, we often feel like we are a mistake, or if we feel like we've done bad, we feel that we are bad, and then that just kind of carries forward, and then we have different life experiences that tend to sort of pile on top of it, so we're not always aware that we think or feel this way, but it happens. It's pretty evident to me when I'm working with someone and they're experiencing shame. First of all, it's one of the emotions that just seems to fill my office. Like, it's palpable. I can feel it. My chest can get really heavy, just like it's like the air gets thick, and I can see a lot of things that happen with the client and the person that I'm working with when they're experiencing shame. A lot of times they will literally just physically fold in on themselves. They kind of like cross their arms, they'll kind of go like this. When they're talking about something that they just feel really ashamed of, embarrassed, humiliated, all those emotions are pretty commonly connected to shame. And there's a tendency for people to start to become kind of emotionally withdrawn. So they get more quiet. Sometimes there's a turning away of their body from either myself or someone else that's important to them. If I'm doing like a joint session, and there's usually they stop with eye contact, and it's just sort of this pit. It's this really ugly emotional pit that I feel people kind of fall into, and it's brutal. It can be really brutal because most people start to disconnect from their supports at that point, and just kind of turn away from, I feel like sometimes just all light. They feel alone. And they're scared. They're scared to reach out. They're scared to hear feedback. They're assuming that people share the same judgment that they do about themselves, and often that's very much not the case, but because they don't reach out, they don't get that feedback. So shame, I have an experience, really can be activated even by the language that we use. So anyone who's ever met with me knows that I, especially here in my office, am really encouraging of using non-shame based language. So if someone starts to talk and use the words like right, wrong, good, bad, and should, I will interrupt them. and I will ask them to use different language. My usual recommendations are helpful, unhelpful. I use that the most myself, but effective, not effective, just other language that can indicate the same thing, that just doesn't seem to have the same sting, the kind of the emotional burn attached to those 5 words that I mentioned before. So my encouragement for everyone is to just start to monitor how they talk to themselves. What you say in your head really has influence about how you feel about you. It has an impact on how you perceive things, whether you're aware of it or not, how you react to things. And so we can really start addressing shame by just addressing how we speak. And that includes not only self-talk, but how we talk to others. So, my recommendation usually when we're addressing communication in any sort of setting, be it with friends, family, kids, partners, coworkers, is also to avoid this type of language. When you activate shame in someone else, they tend to get pretty defensive almost immediately. Often it's not our intent. We're not necessarily trying to do that, but that's the impact. That's what ends up happening with these type of words. So when you can use more neutralized wording, it can be really helpful in communication. It can be helpful in limiting kind of unnecessary conflicts that arise sometimes from what I call just communication misses, unintentional statements where people just sort of miss. They just aren't able to align in communication, and it can cause conflict and so on and so forth. So moving forward, like I said, it can be very difficult to address shame, but one basic level option is just to be aware of what you say to yourself and what you say to others, and start replacing the wording that you're using, especially with self-talk, with other language that doesn't make you feel bad. The content in our heads usually is very critical, and the shaming, the self-shame and the self-guilting and really result in a negative sense of self, and that really results in people just feeling unhappy. They start to make choices in line with shame that's not even accurate about how or who they are, but because they feel so badly about themselves and they don't see themselves as deserving or capable, they really miss out or shy away from things that would really benefit their lives and bring them joy. So for me, shame is a huge inhibitor in happiness, and I'm really dedicated to helping people kind of bring whatever it is that they feel the most shameful about out of the shadows and into the light, because when people do that, they start to really look at it, whatever it is that's shameful for them, and they start to realize that it maybe isn't as terrible as they think. Now, this is not addressing trauma. This is more about, if we make a mistake, and we feel badly about it, and we're just kind of beating ourselves up about it, talking about it, bringing it out in the light. Past mistakes can be helpful, but I'm not trying to say that would be the case for trauma. That's a different deal, and one of my backgrounds is trauma work, so I understand that. So anyway, this video is getting kind of long. I just wanted it to be sort of a brief suggestion on what to do kind of moving forward, and like I said, I'm happy to create more videos about shame. It's hard to even know what to say about it in a short video because it's just a beast. So, but I feel like it's something that I see happen in my office every day, and it's one of those emotions that isn't discussed a lot. It's a really uncomfortable one, so I just wanted to at least put something out there. Please, I invite you to in the comment section, maybe if you use different wording for yourself, if you catch yourself talking to yourself in a shameful way or beating yourself up, what you do to kind of get yourself out of that loop, or if you have any questions or suggestions for further video topics, I'd be happy to hear any. Aside from that, I am wishing you the greatest of days. Bye. Thanks for your time. Bye.